But after 9/11, all the wraps came off for NSA, and they decided to, between the White House and NSA and CIA, they decided to eliminate the protections of U.S. citizens and collect on domestically. I was breaking different codes and data systems and doing data analysis against the Soviet Union. Through 9/11, they took one of the programs I had done, or the back end part of it, and started to use it to spy on everybody in this country. And that was a program they created called Stellar Wind. That was separate and compartmented from the regular activity that was ongoing because it was doing domestic spying. All the equipment was coming in. I knew something was happening, but then when the contractors I had hired came and told me what they were doing, it was clear where all the hardware was going and what they were using it to do. It was simply a different input. Instead of being foreign, it was domestic input.
Somebody told me that they can listen to what we're saying by my having this, even if it's turned off.
Yes. Here's the real grand design. Every domain, think of a domain as an activity, a specific type of activity. Phone calls, or banking is another domain. So if you think of graphing each domain, and then each graph then turning it in the third dimension, the trick now is to map through all the domains in that third dimension, pulling together all the attributes that any individual has in every domain, so that now I can pull your entire life together from all those domains and map it out and show your entire life over time.
Why you're not afraid?
Why should I be?
Because if what you're saying it was possible, it would be revolutionary and people would have a vested interest in preventing that from happening.
I'm too old to be afraid. I'm too old.
Don't have any more constitutional rights to privacy or any constitutional rights, and that's not the way it should be.
Those things that are in that Bill of Rights are being taken away from all of us.
I'm not sure how many of you got a chance to hear Keith Alexander yesterday, the head of the NSA, talk about the NSA's activities. Bill, how do you reconcile, is there some way to reconcile General Alexander's statement that the NSA isn't keeping track of every American with the existence of a facility like the one in Utah?
NSA's charter, and it was a legitimate one, was to do foreign intelligence, and I was with that all the way, and I did the best I could in that job. Unfortunately, they took those programs that I built and turned them on you, and I'm sorry for that. I didn't intend that.
but they did that.
What you're describing really is hard to reconcile with the laws as the laws are generally understood by the lawyers who work with them.
Most people are familiar with the Webster's definition of intercept. UCIT 18 has a different definition. Intercept doesn't take place until it's actually listened to, until somebody puts on some earphones or actually reads some text on a screen. So you can pull in all the communications you want.
The acquisition isn't the search. The querying later on is the search. They can then keep it in their database and target after the fact by going back and conducting data mining searches afterward, in other words, to get the information that they couldn't target from the outset.
And there is another real problem. Unfortunately, the software will, once it takes in data, it will build profiles on everybody in that data. The purpose is to monitor, be able to monitor what people are doing. You build social networks for everybody. That then turns into the graph, and then you index all that data to that graph, which means you can pull out a community. That gives you an outline of the life of everybody in the community. And if you carry it over time from 2001 up, you have that 10 years worth of their life that you could lay out in a timeline. That involves anybody in the country. Even senators and House of Representatives, all of them. The dangers here are that we fall into something like a totalitarian state like East Germany. In Maryland, actually 4 miles from NSA.
And what happened?
They came busting in.
Who's they?
The FBI, about 12 of them, I think, 10 to 12. They came in with the guns drawn on my house.
Where were you?
I was in the shower. I was taking a shower, so my son answered the door, and they, of course, pushed him out of the way at gunpoint and came running upstairs and found me in the shower and came in and pointed a gun at me while I was,
Pointed a gun at your head?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Wanted to make sure I saw it and that I was duly intimidated, I guess. Duly intimidated, I guess. Wanted to make sure I saw it and that I was duly intimidated. They weren't intimidating me anyway, so. Tell me something that will implicate somebody in a crime. That's what they asked me. So I told them what the crime was that I knew about, and that was that George Bush, Dick Cheney, Tenet, and Hayden conspired to subvert the Constitution, the constitutional process, and any number of laws, and here's how they did it, and I explained stellar wind on my back porch to all the FBI agents who weren't cleared. So they had a problem. I created a problem for them because they had a bunch of people now who weren't cleared for a very highly classified, only because it was domestic spying, by the way, was the reason it was highly classified. They wanted to highly classify the extreme impeachable crimes that they were committing. Because of a direct violation of the constitutional rights of everybody in the country. Plus it violated the Pen Register Law and Stored Communications Act, the Electronic Privacy Act, the Intelligence Acts of 1947 and 1978. I mean, it was just a whole series of, plus all the laws covering federal communications governing telecoms. I mean, all those laws are being violated, including the Constitution. This is something the KGB, the Stasi, or the Gestapo would have loved to have had about their populations. So, I mean, and just because we call ourselves a democracy, right, doesn't mean we will stay that way. That's the real danger. And we, the people, may have absolutely nothing to say about it. We haven't had anything to say so far.